Welcome to the Accomplish More podcast, created specifically for the small business owner who doesn't think small. I'm your host, Gayla Scrivener. This show is where you'll learn practical ideas, hints, tips, and tricks to help you grow your small business where you can leverage your time and to accomplish more. Welcome to another episode of the Accomplish More podcast. I'm your host, Gayla Scrivener. I hope you are having a great day, and I am honored that you're here with me today. You know what? I've talked to you on past episodes a lot about many subjects pertaining to marketing your business. When I first started Scrivener Solutions, I had no idea what I was doing in the way of marketing. I left the corporate world to start my very own business. I was living in Florida at the time. My family and I moved there because of the corporate job, and we were there for about 4 years, if memory serves. We had made a lot of wonderful friends there, but that was not the place where my husband and I wanted to live permanently. When the corporate job was done and Scrivener Solutions was born, we moved back to our home state of Missouri. We hadn't been there for years, so yes, we still had family and friends there, but I felt at a loss as to how to get the word out about Scrivener Solutions and that we were open for business. I was fuzzy on a lot of things, but the one thing that I did know that I needed to do was I simply needed to start meeting people. And that's exactly what I did. I joined a local networking group and set out to make new friends in the business world. That has been an amazing experience. Over time, I needed to make sure I kept in touch with those whom I've met. I created systems to consistently send out emails and have a social presence. I wanted to make sure I had systems in place to genuinely stay connected with the folks I've met and nurture those relationships. Over time, the consistency in my email campaigns and social media presence has really paid off. I value the contacts I've made and can honestly say that I consider many of them as friends. This has really paid off for me in my business, being genuine and forming friendships. We as small business owners have such an advantage of being connected with the very people we want to do business with. Besides, it's much more fun to work with people who you like and get along with well, isn't it? The biggest lesson that I've learned since starting my business is provide value, always be genuine, and be consistent. Being yourself always pays off. Let me give you an example of being personal in your marketing. I was talking with a friend the other day, and he was worried about filling a seminar that he was hosting. It's a fairly small event, and he already had some people commit to pay the registration, but he was worried about getting just a few more seats filled so that he could not only break even, but he could make a little bit of a profit. His intention on the event is to be educational, to lead to coaching clients. It's going to be his first event, and he's understandably just a little bit nervous. He's nervous about a lot of things. Nervous about filling the seats, nervous about making sure the event is a success, just nervous about being his first event and wonders if anything would go wrong. But doing something for the first time is nerve-wracking. And so, as we were talking, he was telling me that he only needed to fill 10 more seats. He asked me to get with him and sit down and work up a strategy. He wanted to come up with this elaborate email series and social media campaign. And the email and social are all well and good. I believe in both. They're part of the 3 fundamentals that I believe all businesses should have. But as I was sitting there listening to his initial plan for this event, it exhausted me. And I felt like, man, his expectations seemed a little off. You see, he doesn't have very many on his email list. He does have a MailChimp account with some names, but he hasn't sent anything to any of the lists in ages. Most of those people in his MailChimp account were people that he had gathered cards for at a booth at past expos. and he had people throw in their cards in a fishbowl for a drawing. Now his intent was to follow up with those individuals, but he never did. Therefore, those people haven't heard from him in well over a year and wouldn't know him from anyone else. Now on social media, he doesn't even post very often. Sometimes he posts things on his personal Facebook profile, but rarely anything on his business page. It's very inactive. What he wanted to do was craft an email series and send out a blast to all those people that were in his MailChimp list, about maybe 200 on the list. And he wanted a couple of social posts, just a couple, on his Facebook where he has a couple of hundred followers. Now he could go that route and certainly, he might see results, but very unlikely, especially with his email list, because he hasn't made any contact with those individuals for a very, very long time. And it didn't feel right to me to go that direction. As I was sitting there listening to what he wanted to do, I realized that he had hugely high expectations of what the results would be. He expected a couple of Facebook posts would convert 10 people. He expected the 200 emails to practically strangers would result in responses, favorable responses. They would clamor to his event. But experience has told me that someone who rarely posts on social and has never emailed their MailChimp list don't usually have overwhelming results like my friend was expecting. Now, I really didn't want to burst his bubble, but I told him that he was making things way too complicated and that he needed to think simple and go another route. He was puzzled because he knows that I believe in email marketing and social media marketing and that they both work. In fact, I have been after him for months to create a marketing plan which would include email and social. Why was I all of a sudden telling him don't go that route? Well, you see, he only had 10 seats to fill. That's not very many. He also didn't have very much time left until the event. His plan to me was trying to expend quite a bit of time and energy in crafting messages to people who hardly know him. He would try to have to convince them of his value and the value of his event. Why spend so much time and energy trying to convince strangers? My feeling is that email and social media work when you first build a relationship. Email is personal because the message goes directly into someone's inbox. Your message is welcomed when they have asked to be on your list. It's welcomed when they know you and want to continue to follow you and hear what you have to say. But it's not welcome when it's considered spam. If the only time you send an email is when you have something to sell, your message is usually not welcome and is considered spam if the person you are sending to doesn't even have a clue of who you are. Email works best when you create a system of consistent messages. I'm not talking all about salesy messages either. Messages that may draw a response, that provide information, provide a story of your experience, even something entertaining. The point is to provide value to the person on the other end. When you build a relationship, then when you have something that you are offering, your message is much better received. We like to buy things from people we know and trust. In your inbox, who do you open emails from first? People you recognize, right? Why? Because they provide value and you want to stay connected with them. Sometimes you may feel moved to respond to the email. Sometimes you simply don't have time to even open all your emails for the day. Just because you don't get around to read every single email doesn't mean you don't want to keep connected with the sender. Then again, maybe the message the sender emails you is no longer applicable to you. You simply unsubscribe. So let's circle around back to my friend. His email list on his MailChimp account was about 200. All of them came from expo events where he had a table and offered a giveaway in exchange for the person's business card, or the person jotted down their name and email on a slip of paper. I'm proud of him that he loaded all the names into his MailChimp account, but he got busy and didn't follow up with them. Then he didn't have a strategy to have consistent messages to build a relationship with those strangers, I told him that he shouldn't beat himself up for not following up, but we needed to come up with a strategy for a sustainable and consistent email marketing. But the challenge is that his event was fast approaching. The cool thing was he only needed 10 seats to fill. I really believe that spending so much time on creating messages to total strangers would lead to a big disappointment for my friend. Instead of spending time and so much time trying to craft the perfect message to convince a list of 200 strangers, I told him, wouldn't it be much easier to ask people that he already knows if they'd be interested in going to his event? I asked him, had he asked his current clients? I was kind of pointing out the obvious. I asked him if he'd given some of his current customers or his current clients a call, or texted them, or even sent a personal email. Nothing salesy, just having a conversation, a simple message letting the person know of the event, when it was, and the gist of what it was about, and that he thought of them and thought that they'd be interested in going. It would take some time, but the action would be much more effective. You're reaching out to people who already know you and trust you and already have used your services in the past. He has a fairly healthy customer list. He didn't have them in MailChimp, but I believe he should. But for the purpose of this project, I think a direct email would be best. It's more personal than bulk email. So an individual email, it's not sending out to a list of 50 of the clients all at once and saying, hey y'all, this is what's going on. No, sending a personal email to an individual person and letting them know about it. Some of his customers he's fairly close to, and he should text them, or maybe a quick phone call is the way to go. It just depends on the customer and how they receive messages best. What I advised him to do was quickly go through his list and pick, the top 10 and give them a call, an email, or a text. But he stalled a little bit. He wanted to take time to really analyze his list and categorize people and just kind of manipulate and see what direction he should go. As he was talking and getting into what he wanted to do to analyze and categorize all his customers, I recognized something. I recognized that he was stalling for some reason, and I called him out on it. I told him, hey, you're making this way too complicated. Just pick your top 10 and start calling. When I pointed out that I thought all he needed to do was pull his customer list, he already knows these individuals, and begin calling, emailing, or texting, just depending on how he knows or what felt right for that customer. Make it personal, because after all, we're small businesses. We have that advantage. We can be personal. Even though I called him out on the fact that I thought he was stalling, he agreed. He said, yeah, you're right. And I see it over and over again. We hear or try to use some sophisticated marketing plan in high hopes of big results, but we haven't done the legwork to begin with to really do a great promotion. We don't have a presence. We don't have an email list, but we can still get results. But just keep it simple. Again, content marketing is providing information or content on a consistent basis through the means of blogging, video, podcasts, social media, and email to help people and allow them to get to know you better and your business better so that you can form a relationship. You are forming a fan base or a tribe. When people know you and like you, they are more likely to buy what you are offering. It takes time to build your tribe. But what most forget is that even if You don't have an email list to start with or a social following? You still have a tribe. You still have those close people that you've worked with, and that's your tribe. And your website, your email, and your social media are tools to help you expand your tribe and to stay connected. Your tribe are the people that you already know, your current customers, the people that you network with. Though, I think most of us are a little nervous about asking the people that are closest to us. Maybe it's the rejection. Maybe we just don't want to bother them. Or maybe we have the misperception that they won't be interested because they already know us so well. It might be much easier to handle rejection from an unopened email than picking up the phone and just hearing no. But having a simple conversation, and don't make it salesy. I told my friend that since he's talking to the people he already knew, I bet he already had a list of 10 folks that he knew would benefit from the seminar he was putting on. Out of those 10, maybe there would be some that would be very interested in attending and loved the personal invite. That's where he started, having a nice, relaxed conversation, connecting with some past clients. He asked how they were doing, and he gave them an update about him, which included his seminar, and he mentioned that he thought of them and how they may be interested in going. What's really important and what's really great was the conversations were genuine and not salesy. Of those first 10, many couldn't attend for one reason or another. But the cool thing that came out of his first 10 calls were, 1, he reconnected with folks. 2, a couple of the people couldn't attend the seminar, but were so glad that he called because they wanted to start up services again with him. And 3, he got a couple of people sign up. And 4, calling the first 10 gave him momentum to move on to the next set of clients. He is even inspired to have a plan to continue to stay connected with these clients on a more regular basis. He is inspired to be more diligent in his content marketing plan. In summary, my friend filled the seats he needed. That was amazing. He took action and called on the people that he already knew. Those people know, trust, and like him. The message was genuine because it was conversational and not pitchy. He went on to have a successful seminar. He reached his attendance goals, which was fantastic. He also achieved the outcomes he wanted, educating folks on a particular subject and gaining more business in the long run. Now, I want to be clear here. You don't have to have a ton of folks on an email list or following you on social media. But you should have a strategy in consistently talking to your followers in those areas before pitching someone what you have to offer. Provide value. Always be genuine and be consistent. Every person who is on your list or is following you on social wants to get to know you better. Don't squander that opportunity. And no matter how big or how small your lists or following may be, always remember that behind every email and behind every profile pic is a real person. Treat them as such. If my friend had been actively communicating to his following through his email and social all along, we would have created messages in those areas. It would have been a lot easier to integrate those messages and would have been much more effective. I still would have suggested him to make some personal contacts to some of his clients whom he thought would be super interested and give them a personal invite. Well, that's going to wrap it up for the show this week, my friends. If you aren't actively using email or social in your current marketing plan, why not? Is it because you're too busy? Then it's time to delegate. Scrivener Solutions' team of virtual assistants help you stay connected with your clients and prospects. You want to know how? Well, just drop me an email at podcast@scrivenersolutions.com. That's podcast at scrivener solutions.com. Now, maybe you aren't ready to delegate and want to do it yourself, but don't really know how to put it all together. Maybe you don't know where to start. Well, that's okay. Sure, you're told to do email campaigns, but you've got questions about how to do it. What email service to use? How to set it up? Maybe even you have no idea what to write. Well, hop on over to accomplishmoreacademy.com. Sign up for a membership today to be directly connected with coaching and tutorials on all subjects relating to how to promote your small business. Gain ideas and inspiration from your peers, and be in a place where you can learn the basics without feeling like an amateur. Again, you can register over at accomplishmoreacademy.com. Thanks for joining me today, and until next time, have a fantastic week.